All right, welcome back to WMMA Now with your host Chuck Stevenson, coming at you tonight with a fight review. So we're going to Singapore for one championship revolution. We're going to the one Atomweight 115-pound division. Victoria Lee coming in undefeated at 2-0, taking on the also undefeated Victoria Souza coming in at 5-0. Now this is Lee's third straight fight this year since making her pro debut earlier. She's taking on Souza, who is making her one championship debut in this fight. Also, a little note before I get into the fight specifics. Lee came in with a 5-inch, 12.7 centimeter height advantage. So let's get into the first round. So Souza was able to get inside early to land her hands on Lee. Lee was overextending on her punches, and at first she was unable to really find her range. I mean, she was just unable to really counter on anything, on what Souza was throwing with the fists. And when she threw, she was just overextending. Then Lee got a drag takedown. And when I say drag, I mean she literally grabbed onto her and dragged her to the ground. Got a drag takedown at about minute and 16 mark to half guard. Now Souza was able to get back up to her feet, but there was a quick hip toss by Lee to move to side control, and then from there, Souza was able to get a real nice sweep on Lee to get back into the guard of the taller fighter. From guard, Lee threw up a triangle and had it in pretty tight, and then she also extended the arm for a triangle arm bar as well, but the bell rang probably within a few seconds after she was able to extend the arm. So Souza was able to survive the double submission attempt into the second round. So for the second round, Souza came out. She was a little slower to start, but she was still getting inside and finding Lee's chin. Now, Lee basically bum rushed Souza to the fence to get to the clinch, and then a hip toss from there to half guard, and just started landing elbows onto the head of Souza in order to pass. And then after she passed, Souza gave up her back. And then Lee started landing some more elbows. And then Souza was able to get back to half guard while Lee kept working to pass. And as Lee was passing, Souza was able to scramble to stand back up. Once they stood, they were still in a clinch, so Lee landed some knees and then got a trip takedown from there. Once she got Souza down to the ground, Lee was able to trap one of the arms of Souza under her leg, and then just started landing some elbows, and then just started landing a ton of punches, forcing the referee to intervene because Souza was just trapped at that point. Giving the win to Victoria Lee by TKO, 3 minutes, 58 seconds of the second round. You know, this fight, it wasn't great, but it wasn't a bad fight either. You know, it was all right. It was a good, main card opener. And decent performance by both fighters. One thing I want to make note of is that this was a good case that sometimes, even in modern MMA, having a size advantage helps. They always say, well, a skilled smaller fighter will beat an unskilled bigger fighter. Yeah, but it's at the point now where the bigger fighters are usually skilled enough that the size difference is going to matter. So this was a good case of size outweighing technicality, because Souza looked like the more technical fighter, whereas Lee was definitely the bigger, stronger fighter. And excuse me, I'm probably going to get some crap for this, but I'm not seeing any technical advancements in Lee across her 3 pro fights so far. Now, maybe it's because it's her third fight in the span of less than a year, so maybe she's not allowing herself time between fights to advance, but she's mostly getting by on being a size bully at this point. All of her opponents have been much smaller than her. Souza the smallest, I think, so far, at 5 foot even to Lee's 5'5". I mean, she's getting by on being a size bully. Like, she's not showing the technical growth that you expect a fighter to show from fight to fight. Excuse me. So I might get crap for this, but right now, Souza is looking, or excuse me, Victoria Lee, is looking more like a Macy Barber than, say, like a Tyla Santos, to use a couple flyweights. Or she's looking more like, trying to think of a good strawweight example, but strawweights are all pretty technical. So yeah, she's basically, at this point, she's at the Macy Barber stage of her career, where she's getting by on size and strength more than technical ability. So let's talk about things to work on. For Lee, I mean, I could probably come up with a bunch of things. Three most important things, though. Finding her range. She was totally unable to find her range on the feet. She did her best work on the ground, and that's only because she basically was able to get the clinch either by rushing forward on her opponent to the clinch or just grabbing her opponent and dragging her to the ground. She has to work on finding her range. Her striking is just, it's pretty abysmal, honestly. So she really needs to work on being able to find her range, because she was letting a much smaller opponent get inside of her range and tee off on her. And there's no point in having a height and reach advantage if you don't know how to use it. So she's got to work on that. That is big. Also, she needs to learn head movement badly. I mean badly. She has the same striking defense as her older sister, which is to say, just take punches to the chin and rely on durability to get her through. And that's going to end up costing her eventually. I mean, it happens to everybody that relies on durability to get by in fights. So it's definitely going to cost her eventually. Also, like I said earlier, stop relying on out-muscling your opponent. You gotta use your skills more. Like, quit worrying about just being able to just because you can out-muscle your opponents doesn't mean you should. You gotta use your actual skills, your technique in fights. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to rely on them when you actually need to. Now for Souza, the biggest problem I had with her was cardio. She seemed done or like tired by the start of the second round. Now this was her 6th pro fight. In 4 of her fights, she won by first round finish. Only 1 decision. I haven't been able to find that decision fight. But what you see a lot of with fighters who always manage to get early finishes is that if they don't get that early finish, their cardio runs out. So she's got to work on her cardio big time. For fights to make. Now for Souza, the question is going to be, is she a one and done? Pun intended. I mean, will one championship actually bring her back? We don't know, because they like to bring in outside fighters to build up the fighters they want to build up, and then not tend to bring them back. So who knows if she'll actually be called back to one, or if she was just a one and done. So it's hard to say. For Lee, honestly, I think the pattern right now for her is set, and I don't see one championship deviating from it. They're going to bring in someone from outside the promotion with a record that looks good on paper, as long as you don't actually look into it. And her last 2 fights have been great examples of that, with the fight against Lu Pingwan and then Victoria Souza. They had good records on paper, but only if you stopped at the pure numbers. When you actually looked at the context, the records weren't that great. And I just see one championship doing more of the same with Lee. They'll bring in an outside fighter no one's ever heard of. The record's going to look good, but you'll probably, more than likely than not, be at a serious size disadvantage against Victoria. So anyway, those are my thoughts on the fight. Let me know yours in the comments down below. Unfortunately, I haven't found the fight individually yet. If I do, I will link it in the description and a pinned comment. Go check it out and then come back and let me know your thoughts on it. Meanwhile, Don't forget to hit the like button, share the video as well, that helps the channel grow, and while you're at it, go ahead and subscribe to WMMA Scene Now, the most complete women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.